All right, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be giving you three tips for phenomenal headlines. Yes, they're that good. At least they are to me. So, let's get started. Okay, three tips for phenomenal headlines. Be clear instead of clever. Use numbers. Use power words to grab attention. All right, we'll go over what these mean here in just a moment in more detail. So, first, be clear instead of clever. What this means basically is, sometimes we can kind of get in the habit of coming up with these creative name ideas that are witty but and clever, but may get in the way of the clarity of our message. And it's okay to be clever. There's nothing wrong with the cleverness as long as you can still maintain that balance with good clarity. In fact, you can be clever, but as the first point states here, if you have to choose between clarity and cleverness, always opt for clarity or the clearer option. What is clarity? Well, it's what's blatantly obvious what you're talking about. Pretty simple. Yeah, of course, this may not apply to all cases. It ultimately depends on the context of what it is you're working on and what your headlines are for. But generally, if you're working on promoting anything, this isn't essential. You want it to be clear what your message is. You want your headline to clearly indicate, you know, what what the user can expect. Let's look at an example. The hero section here, where the tongue sings with delight. Now, what do you think that means? What do you think that this website is about or that this company is about? Now, you could look at the logo and the background of the hero image and see the coffee and everything, and it can kind of make it pretty obvious what it means. But when your eyes navigate to the headline here, where the tongue sings with delight, if you don't already know what this website is about, or you have to kind of look around at the page a little bit to kind of put the pieces together to get and then you know what it's about. So there's a little bit of a lack of clarity here. Whereas in the next example, fresh coffee that will have you back for more. It's very obvious what is talking about here. And the thing is, one of the things in user experience design and usability is you want to put the least amount of a cognitive load on the user as possible. And sometimes finding that balance between, as we mentioned earlier, cleverness and creativity and clarity, can play into that. But always keep that in mind. You want to reduce the amount of cognitive load that you put on your user. You don't want them to sit there and have to think more than would make it more easy for them to pick up on it instantly. 5-second test. And now this applies more to just web pages in general, not necessarily headlines, even though it can apply to headlines as well. But we're going to go over it here because it's still a good thing to know for whether you're uh, using it for a web page or whether you're using it for a headline for an article you're writing or something of that nature. But the principle remains the same: is you're going to be seeing if someone can understand what you have so far without any additional context to figure it out. So here's the 5-second test in order. And this is for if you are testing out a web page design. Remove logos or branding from the page. Then take a screenshot of the page without the branding. Show it to someone who isn't familiar with the branding for 5 seconds, then remove it. Then you want to ask them if they can identify one, what your site is about, and what product or service you sell. So, and there's other things that you can use. There's Amazon's Mechanical Turk that you could use for gathering a large amount of data in this endeavor for relatively cheap. If that would benefit your company, otherwise you can just ask people in your social circle. Uh, but yeah, there's different ways of doing that, and that is the 5 second test. Use numbers in your headlines. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, studies have shown that including numbers in headlines increases engagement. Excuse me. And they do this because this provides a sense of clarity and structure, thus making it easier to readily digest. They're easy to understand and provide the mind with a way to quickly grasp and organize the upcoming information. Now, if you think of like a news uh, story, or if you're looking up ways to cook your favorite um, cook your favorite burritos or something, or fajitas, and you're finding recipes and you're looking and there's different ways, and you see something that's got a few different ways, then that's going to be in your mind most readily to help you parse the upcoming information. Okay, I know that there's 3 things upcoming, and it helps you create these little compartments in your mind for organizing the information, and it makes it much easier to absorb. In a study that was conducted by BuzzSumo, showing the most popular 3 word phrases to start in headlines that got the most engagement, where X is representative of a number, it can be seen that headlines that contain numbers got quite a bit of engagement compared to others. Use power words. What are power words? They're emotionally evocative. So they are words that elicit, an emotional response. Things like phenomenal. Power words grab attention and inspire action. Here are a few examples of some common power words: free, bonus, massive, brilliant, spectacular. Just keep these in mind next time you're looking through any of the excuse me, news articles from your favorite news site. What kind of power words are they using in their headlines? In fact, back to the subject of power words, there was a study that, well, not really a study, that's the wrong word. There was an experiment that was done, and Robert Cialdini talks about it in his book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, where a woman was standing in line to use a Xerox machine, and she would ask to cut in line to make some copies, and depending on how it was phrased, there would be different results of compliance. Whenever she would say, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the copier because I'm in a rush?" 94% complied. Whereas whenever she said, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the copier?" without mentioning that she was in a rush, only 60% complied. And then lastly, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the copier because I have to make some copies?" got 93% compliance. Now, if you think about that last one, because I have to make some copies. Now, making some copies is pretty obvious that that's the reason that the copier would be used in the first place. So she's simply stating the obvious. However, the key word here in this question is because. The way that the mind latches onto it. Okay, she has a valid reason, even if the reason given is, you know, self explanatory. And so this just kind of illustrates how certain words can cause very specific reactions and levels of compliance in others. So that concludes 3 tips for phenomenal headlines. You have be clear instead of clever, use numbers, So, and use power words to grab attention. So, we have, you want to make sure your headlines are clear. And if you have the option to choose between cleverness or clarity, opt for clarity. Use numbers. So, it's more readily understandable what your information is going to be about so that it can be much more structured and easy for the brain to digest. As we mentioned earlier, it reduces that cognitive load. And then, of course, use power words to grab attention and elicit actions. Like if you found this video valuable, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you here again next time. Thanks for watching.